So you don't want to be Marie Antoinette for obvious reasons. She was born an Austrian princess. Yes, she wasn't French. Then she married off the very awkward Louis XVI, and somehow, despite being queen, managed to have less political skill than a head of lettuce. Seriously. The woman lived large, literally, while the average French citizen was scraping by on stale bread. And we all know how that ended.
Welcome to Shoulda, Coulda, Woulda, where we talk about what should've, could've, and would've been done to avoid the catastrophe we're about to see.
Marie Antoinette ignored all the signs and suffered a tragic fate. Let's get into it. Okay, so you're 14 years old. You've just been shipped off to a foreign country for marriage, and everyone hates you. Congratulations, you're Marie Antoinette. Her marriage to Louis XVI was meant to strengthen the alliance between Austria and France. But there was one tiny problem. France had been fighting Austria for centuries, and the French people saw her as an Austrian spy wrapped in silk. To make matters worse, her husband, Louis XVI, was about as charismatic as a moldy baguette. He was indecisive, socially awkward, and, fun fact, took 7 years to consummate the marriage. 7. With a boring husband and a court full of people who hated her, Marie did what any teenager would do. She found distractions. Unfortunately, those distractions included spending obscene amounts of money. A small problem when you're in a poor country. Marie had a talent, specifically the talent of burning through money like it was kindling. She built the Petit Trianon, a luxurious mini palace just for her, because apparently living in Versailles wasn't fancy enough. She bought enough wigs to populate a second France. She gambled, she partied, and worst of all, she got blamed for everything wrong with the economy. Enter the infamous phrase, "let them eat cake," even though she probably never said that. But the fact that people believe she did tells you how much they hated her. Meanwhile, France was drowning in debt, mostly thanks to wars, especially that little American Revolution. Thanks George Washington. Louis XVI tried some half-hearted financial reforms, but every time he faced resistance, he backed down like a scared puppy. And then came the diamond necklace scandal. So, let's get this straight. Marie Antoinette didn't even want the necklace, yet she got blamed for it anyway. Turns out, when people already hate you, they don't really care about the details. By the late 1780s, France had reached a breaking point. People were starving, bread prices were through the roof, and the king was still being about as effective as a chocolate teapot. Then came 1789. The Estates General was convened to solve France's financial crisis. Louis mostly ignored it. The storming of the Bastille happened. Marie kept throwing parties. Then came the Women's March on Versailles, where thousands of furious women stormed the palace, demanding bread. They forced the royal family to move to Paris, effectively ending any illusion that they were in control. At this point, Marie could have and should have done some damage control and better than average PR. Maybe release a heartfelt apology, lower taxes, distribute bread? No. Instead, she doubled down on expensive fashion and spent her days playing peasant at her fake farm at Petit Trianon. Meanwhile, the revolutionary press had a field day. Propaganda painted her as a blood-sucking, baby-eating monster. And if there's one thing we know about angry mobs, it's that they don't do fact-checking. In 1791, the royal family tried to escape Paris. What was the plan, you ask? Disguise themselves as commoners and flee to Austria. Sounds smart, right? Except, instead of dressing like peasants, they traveled in an extravagant giant carriage. Real smart. Marie refused to dress plainly, so she was immediately recognized. They made it as far as Varennes before being caught and dragged back to Paris in disgrace. By 1793, Louis had already been executed, and Marie was put on trial for treason. The charges? Everything from draining the treasury to conspiring with Austria to, corrupting her own son. Despite delivering a surprisingly dignified defense, the verdict was a foregone conclusion. Guilty. And so, on October 16th, 1793, Marie Antoinette was taken to the guillotine. Her last words? She accidentally stepped on the executioner's foot and said, "Pardon me, sir, I did not mean to do it." Ironically, the revolutionaries who cheered her death, many of them met the same fate within a few years. Turns out, revolutions eat their own. So, could Marie have avoided the guillotine? Maybe if she had budgeted better, fixed her PR, fled successfully. One thing's for sure. If you're ruling a country where everyone is starving, maybe don't be the human embodiment of excess. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment about which historical disaster we should regret together next. Adios.